I messed up. Bad. I don't even know how to start this because every time I think about what happened, my stomach knots up so tight I feel like I'm going to throw up. It all started with a watch. A stupid fucking Rolex. I've always been into watches, not like a collector or anything, but I like nice things. I was scrolling through a Reddit thread about luxury watches, and someone mentioned that if you know where to look, you can get real Rolexes for dirt cheap on the dark web. Not fakes, real ones. Either stolen, unregistered, or found in some less than legal ways. I knew it was shady, but my curiosity got the best of me. I started looking into it, and after about 2 hours of researching, I found myself deep in some forum filled with people selling all kinds of high-end shit. Watches, jewelry, guns, fake passports. A Rolex Submariner, brand new for $3,000. That's like a quarter of what they cost in stores. I had the money, fuck it. I won't get into the details of how I ordered it, but let's just say Bitcoin was involved. The seller had good reviews and the listing said guaranteed authentic. No tracking number, no expected delivery date. Just a message saying, you'll get it soon, be patient. 3 days later, a small, unmarked package arrived at my apartment. There was no return address, just my name, handwritten in this scratchy, almost frantic-looking script. The box was wrapped in brown paper and sealed with an excessive amount of packing tape. It was almost like whoever packed it wanted to make sure it was impossible to open. I used a knife to cut through the tape, and immediately a rancid metallic stench hit me, like rusted pennies and something else I couldn't place. My stomach turned, but I kept going. Inside was a black Rolex box. It looked legit, had the gold crown logo and everything, but it was sticky. Like there was this weird, tacky residue on the surface. I wiped my fingers on my jeans and opened the box. And that's when I noticed the smell got stronger. The watch itself was beautiful, a real Submariner, black dial, stainless steel, perfect condition, but then I picked it up and my fingers came away wet. There was something underneath the watch.
I pulled back the cushion it was sitting on, and I swear to God there was a human tooth lodged into the fabric. No root, no blood, just the tooth. I dropped the box and stumbled back. My first thought was, what the fuck? Followed by, this has to be a joke. But then I saw the inside of the lid. There was writing, scratched into the soft velvet lining. Help me, he's watching. At this point, my whole body was ice cold. My hands were shaking. I grabbed the box and ran to my bathroom, turned on the faucet, and scrubbed my hands like I'd just touched a dead body. I thought about throwing the whole thing away, but some stupid part of me still wanted the watch. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was some sick prank. Maybe the seller thought it'd be funny to freak people out. I went back, picked up the watch, and looked closer. That's when I saw the smears. They weren't super noticeable at first, but under the light, I could see faint brownish red streaks on the band, on the back of the case, in the tiny grooves of the bezel. It was blood. I wanted to believe it was rust, or dirt, or anything else, but deep down, I knew. And then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. At first, I ignored it, but then it buzzed again, and again, 3 times in a row. I hesitated, then swiped to answer. I didn't even get a chance to say anything before a voice, low, hoarse, like someone who had been screaming for hours, said, "You shouldn't have taken it." I froze, my mouth went dry. "What?" I croaked. The line went dead. I just stood there, my mind racing. I looked at the watch, still sitting in the open box on my counter. And that's when I saw something that made my stomach drop. The second hand. It wasn't ticking. It was moving smoothly. Someone had already worn it. Rolex watches don't tick. They have automatic movements, powered by the motion of the wearer's wrist. That meant this wasn't some brand new stolen Rolex. Someone had been wearing it, recently. And then I noticed something else. I hadn't set the time yet, but it was already correct. I didn't sleep that night. I kept telling myself it was just some elaborate scam, that maybe the guy who sold me the watch was messing with me to make it feel more exclusive or whatever. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. The blood, the tooth, the message in the box, the fucking phone call. I sat on my couch, staring at the watch on my coffee table like it was some kind of bomb. I thought about smashing it, throwing it out. But something in my gut told me that wasn't going to be the end of it. And I was right. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I wasn't going to answer it. No fucking way. But then, as I sat there watching it ring, my phone screen did something I've never seen before. It started glitching. The whole screen turned static, like an old TV losing signal. Then for a split second, an image flashed on the screen. Just for a millisecond, but I saw it. A face. Mouth open. Eyes wide. A look of sheer terror. Then the screen went black. My phone was dead, completely bricked. I just sat there, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My brain was screaming at me to leave, to get the fuck out of my apartment, go to a hotel, call someone, anything. But I felt frozen, like something was keeping me there. That's when I heard the sound outside my door. It wasn't knocking or tapping, it was breathing. Slow, heavy breathing, like someone with a wet chest infection was standing right outside my apartment, just listening. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a kitchen knife, and crept toward the peephole. My hands were slick with sweat. Every step felt like I was about to step on a landmine. When I put my eye to the peephole, I swear to God I almost pissed myself. There was someone standing there, not just standing, pressed up against my door. Their forehead was flat against the wood, their body completely rigid. They weren't moving, they weren't even breathing anymore. And then, slowly, they lifted their head. I only saw half their face through the peephole, but it was enough. Their skin was pale, like greyish pale, the kind of colour you see on a rotting corpse. Their eye was wide open, bloodshot, like they hadn't blinked in hours. And then I saw their mouth move, just the lips, no sound, but I could read it clear as day. "You took it." I stumbled back so hard I tripped over my coffee table and fell flat on my arse. My knife clattered to the floor. My chest was so tight I could barely breathe. I scrambled up and grabbed my phone, forgetting it was dead. My first thought was 911, but something told me that was useless. What the fuck was I even supposed to say? "Hey, there's a dead-looking guy whispering at my door because I bought a haunted Rolex on the dark web."
I needed to get out. I grabbed my hoodie and wallet, shoved my feet into my sneakers, and went for the window. I live on the second floor, but my neighbour has this old metal fire escape that connects to my place. If I could just get down. Then my apartment door handle turned. Not a knock, not a kick. Someone was trying to open it. I bolted to the window, yanked it open, and jumped onto the fire escape. I didn't give a fuck about being quiet anymore. I was out. The second I hit the pavement, I ran. I didn't even know where I was going, but my legs just moved. I ended up at this 24-hour diner about 6 blocks from my place. The kind with sticky tables, flickering neon signs, and old waitresses who look like they've seen some shit. I ordered a black coffee and just sat there, trying to breathe. At some point, I checked my phone again. Still dead. I asked the waitress if she had a charger, but she just gave me a look like I'd asked for a kidney. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I used a payphone. I only knew one number by heart, my buddy Matt. He picked up on the third ring. "Dude, do you know what fucking time it is?" "Matt," I whispered, gripping the receiver. "Something's wrong, I think. Fuck, I think I'm being followed." That woke him up. "Wait, what? Where are you?" "Ed's Diner. You know, the one on..." And then the static hit. Loud, Violent, like someone shoved the phone into a blender. I yanked the receiver away, but I could still hear something underneath the static. A voice, whispering. Number, not whispering. Laughing. I slammed the receiver down and turned around so fast I almost knocked over my coffee. My heart was a fucking jackhammer. That's when I saw the guy sitting at the booth by the window. He was staring at me. Not in the casual way. Not in the who's this freaked out dude at 4 a.m. way. He was locked on me, wearing a hoodie. Hands resting on the table. No food, no coffee, just sitting there, watching. And on his wrist, a Rolex. I swear on my fucking life it was the same one. The exact same model, the same black dial, the same stainless steel band. But here's the thing, it wasn't clean. It had the same blood smears. And the second hand, it wasn't moving, just stuck, frozen, like it was waiting. I felt sick, not just in my stomach, deep in my bones, like every cell in my body knew something was wrong. The guy at the booth wasn't just staring. He was studying me, like he was trying to see how much I knew, how much I had figured out. My whole body screamed at me to get up. Run. Get the fuck out of there. But my legs wouldn't move. I was locked in place, gripping my coffee cup so hard I thought it was going to shatter in my hands. Then he smiled. Not a normal smile, too wide, too forced, like someone who had never smiled before and was trying to mimic what it looked like. And then he did something that made my blood turn to ice. He lifted his wrist, rolled up his sleeve, tapped the watch, the exact same Rolex that was sitting back in my apartment, the same blood stains, the same scratches, the same fucking watch. I didn't think, I just moved. I shot up so fast my chair screeched against the floor. The waitress behind the counter gave me a weird look, but I didn't care. I was already heading for the door. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My whole body was in fight or flight mode, and I was fleeing. The cold air hit me like a slap to the face. The streets were mostly empty. Just a couple of homeless guys, a few taxis, the occasional drunk stumbling out of a bar. I needed a plan, a place to go, someone to fucking help me. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket and tried turning it on. Still dead. Fuck. I was halfway down the block when I heard footsteps. Not behind me, to the side, across the street. I glanced over. The guy from the diner, still smiling, still watching. And now, he was walking, not fast, not running, just a slow, steady pace, like he knew I wasn't going to get away. I cut down an alley, my heart hammering. I had no idea where I was going, just that I needed to get somewhere with people, somewhere I could lose him. I came out the other side onto a busier street, streetlights, a 7-Eleven, a gas station. I ran straight into the store, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The cashier looked up, a bored expression on his face. Some kid, maybe 19, scrolling through his phone. "Hey dude, you okay?" he asked. I nodded, swallowing hard. I went straight to the back, past the fridges, and crouched down behind the shelves. I needed a second to think. Who was he? What did he want? Was this about the watch? I pulled it out of my pocket, my hands shaking. I still hadn't touched it since leaving my apartment. I held it up to the store lights, inspecting it again. The blood was still there, dry, dark. And then I noticed something new. There was a name etched into the back. It hadn't been there before, I was sure of it. I squinted, my heart slamming against my ribs. E. Carson. I didn't know any E. Carson. But whoever he was, I was holding his watch. I was about to put it down when I felt my stomach drop. The second hand, it had started moving, not smoothly, not like a Rolex is supposed to. It was jerking, stopping and starting in erratic little jumps. And with each tick, I swear I heard something, not a sound, a word. Tick, run, tick, run, tick, run. I dropped the watch like it had burned me. My breath hitched, my head spinning. I peeked over the shelves, my stomach twisting. The guy was inside the store, standing by the counter, talking to the cashier. I could only hear bits of it, but the cashier's tone changed immediately. He sounded nervous. Yeah, he came in a minute ago, the kid was saying. I don't know, man. I didn't hear the rest because the guy turned and looked right at me. I bolted. I didn't care about being quiet. I sprinted down the next aisle, shoving past a rack of snacks, knocking shit over as I ran for the back door. I crashed into it so hard I almost face planted into the alley behind the store. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop. I ran down the alley, cut across another street, down another block, and then I saw the cop. I practically threw myself at him. Please, I gasped. Please, I need help. He held up his hands, confused. Whoa, slow down, man. What's going on? I turned, pointing back toward the store. There's a guy. He's following me. I don't know who he is. I think he... I stopped. The guy was gone. The cop glanced past me. Where? I spun in circles, scanning the streets, the alleys. Nothing. Fuck, I muttered, rubbing my face. I swear he was just there. The cop sighed, already losing patience. You been drinking tonight? What? No. He squinted at me, then at my hoodie. You live around here? Yeah, a few blocks down. All right, let's get you home. I didn't want to go home. I couldn't go home, but arguing with a cop at 4 a.m. wasn't going to help. I nodded weakly, following him. Every step felt like walking into a trap. Something told me this wasn't over, not even close. The cop didn't give a shit. He walked me back to my apartment like he was escorting a drunk guy home from a bar. The whole time I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see him again. But the streets were empty. Too empty. I don't live in some small town. This is the city. Even at 4 a.m. there's always someone out. Homeless guys, late-night workers, sketchy people hanging around gas stations. But now, it felt like the whole world had cleared out, like they knew something was about to happen. When we got to my building, the cop stopped at the entrance. You good from here? I hesitated. My whole body screamed no.
But what was I going to say? Come upstairs with me and check my closet for the haunted Rolex man? Yeah, I muttered. Thanks. He gave me a long look, then nodded and walked off. I stood there for a full minute, staring at my building. My windows were dark. Everything looked normal, but I fucking knew that wasn't true. Something was waiting for me inside. I thought about leaving. Just turning around, walking to a bus station, maybe even catching a flight somewhere far as fuck. But I was broke. My phone was dead, and besides, deep down, I knew I wouldn't be able to run, not from this. I took a deep breath and went in. The elevator was broken. Again. I had to take the stairs, every step feeling heavier than the last. When I got to my floor, the hallway was silent. Too silent. My hands were slick with sweat as I pulled out my keys. I slid one into the lock, turned it. The door was already unlocked. I froze. My breath hitched in my throat. I knew for a fact I had locked it before I left. Slowly, I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. That same metallic stench, rusted pennies and something worse. My stomach turned as I stepped inside. The living room was dark, but something felt off, like the air was heavier, tighter. I reached for the light switch. The second I flipped it, I knew I had fucked up, because someone was sitting on my couch, not just sitting, slumped, like a rag doll. My breath caught in my throat. My whole body went cold. The figure wasn't moving. At first, I thought it was him, the guy from the diner, the guy who had been following me. But as I stepped closer, my stomach twisted into a fucking knot. This wasn't him, this was someone else. And they were dead. Their head was tilted at a sickening angle, like their neck had snapped. Their arms hung limp at their sides. Their clothes were dark with blood, and on their wrist, a Rolex, my Rolex, the same one from the box, the same one I had left on my coffee table before I ran out. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My mind was screaming, trying to process what I was looking at. And then the second hand started ticking. Tick, tick, tick. The body's head jerked. I fucking ran. I didn't care where, just out. I tore through the hallway, my vision blurring. My heart slammed against my ribs, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I hit the stairwell, practically throwing myself down the steps. I made it to the lobby, gasping for air, my legs shaking so bad I almost collapsed. I ran outside, straight into someone. I stumbled back, my heart fucking exploding in my chest. It was the cop, the same one who had walked me home minutes ago. He looked at me, frowning. "Hey, slow down, man, what's—" Then he saw my face. His expression changed. "You look like you just saw a ghost." I couldn't speak. My lungs weren't working. "Let's sit down," he said, putting a hand on my shoulder. I flinched. His grip tightened, and that's when I saw it. The sleeve of his uniform shifted slightly. Just enough for me to catch a glimpse of something underneath. Something metal, something silver, something ticking. A Rolex, the exact same. One. I looked up at him. His face was wrong. The skin was too smooth, too stretched, like a mask. And then he smiled, that same too wide grin, like he'd been waiting for me to notice. "Let's take a drive," he said. I swung. Didn't think, didn't hesitate, just balled up my fist and punched the cop right in the fucking face. His head snapped back, and I used that split second to tear myself free. I ran, full sprint, legs burning, heart hammering so hard I thought I was going to have a fucking heart attack. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to get the fuck away. Behind me I heard the cop laugh. Not a normal laugh, something wet, choking, wrong. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I cut through alleys, over fences, past buildings I barely recognized. The streets blurred together. My body was running on pure terror. Finally I saw a cab. I all but threw myself in front of it, waving my arms like a fucking lunatic. The driver hit the brakes, rolled down his window. "Jesus, man, you trying to get killed?" "Drive!" I gasped, yanking open the door. "Anywhere! Just go!" The driver gave me a look but didn't argue. The second I was in, he peeled off. I collapsed against the seat, shaking so bad I thought my bones were going to crack. My lungs were screaming for air. "Where to, man?" the driver asked, eyeing me in the mirror. I could barely think. My mind was still stuck on that fucking watch. The body in my apartment, the cop. I swallowed hard. "Airport." The driver nodded. "Good call." I tried to calm myself down, slow my breathing, but no matter what I did, I couldn't shake this feeling, like I was still being watched, like something was still following me. I stared out the window, my fingers digging into my thighs. The city lights blurred past, neon bleeding into darkness. Then
I noticed something, the driver's wrist peeking out from under his jacket sleeve. No, but I sat up, my whole body going ice cold. It was there, a Rolex, the same Rolex, same blood smears, same scratches. I felt like I was going to be sick. The driver met my eyes in the mirror and smiled. I didn't think, I just acted. I grabbed the door handle, yanked it, locked. I slammed my fist against the window. "Let me out!" The driver chuckled. "Too late for that." He reached for something under the seat. I reacted first. I lunged forward and grabbed the wheel. The cab swerved, horns blared, tires screamed. Then, impact. The world flipped, glass shattered, metal crunched, my skull cracked against the dashboard, and for a second everything went black. When I came to, everything was sideways. The cab was wrecked, on its side, smoke curling from the hood. The windshield was gone. The driver wasn't there, just the watch. Sitting on the dashboard, ticking, tick, tick, tick. I crawled out of the wreckage, my head pounding, blood dripping from somewhere. My ears were ringing so loud I could barely think. The streets were empty, no cars, no sirens, nothing. I stumbled onto the sidewalk, every inch of me screaming in pain. I needed to get away, I needed to buzz. My phone, still dead, but somehow buzzing. I hesitated. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it. The screen flickered, an unknown number. I swallowed, pressed answer, silence, then a voice, low, choked, familiar. You shouldn't have taken it. My breath caught. The voice was mine. Then the call ended. The second hand on the watch stopped. And behind me, I heard breathing.